Hello there. I said I would be back, and for this topic, it's going to be another election video. This one is going to be the election of 1948. Okay, as in most videos, like I said before in previous videos, if you watch my channel, I'm just going to give an overview of the election. I'm not going too in depth, mainly because I don't want to waste time, and also I have food right here that is getting cold. Uh, so, anyway. The election of 48 is a very interesting election. It's, um, I would say, as far as interesting elections, it's like as interesting as the election of 1812, of 1912 and 1876. You know, um, in the election of 1948, you have four main candidates. You have, for the Republicans, you have the governor of New York, Thomas Dewey, who himself was a candidate in the 1944 presidential election against Roosevelt. Uh, then you have the Democratic Party. In 1948, the Democratic Party does a freeway split. You have the loyal Democrats that go with Truman, um, but at their convention in 1948, you also have a split in the party. You have the Democratic platform in 1948 called for civil rights reform, and a lot of Southern delegates, as you might have imagined at the time, um, did not want to accept these civil rights platform that Truman wanted to propose. So the day of the convention, the week of the convention, when the civil rights platform was added to the Democratic National Platform, um, several southern states, with the state of South Carolina, of course, leaving first, you have them leaving the convention, and they set up their own party known as the Dixiecrat Party. The Dixiecrat Party is mainly for looking out for Southern interests. They want no civil rights. They want the views of the South to be respected. They want the South to be more independent and more um, kind of like, more pronounced in the country, to have a voice. That's what the Dixiecrats wanted. Um, at the other end of the Democratic Party, you also have another split. This is the Progressive Party. Like the Progressive Party of the early 1900s, they call for reform in government, and their main leader was Henry Wallace, the former vice president to FDR. On the Dixiecrat side, you have Governor Strom Thurmond. And of course, you have Harry Truman as the Democratic candidate. Now, the Republicans. I probably mentioned the Republicans already. There is an assumption that the Republicans in 1948 did not have a hard time electing their nominating their candidate as bad as the Democrats did in 1948. While it is true that the Republicans in 1948 did not have that much of a confusing convention as the Democrats did, there were some problems within the primary season for the Republicans as well. And it was between mainly two guys at the end. Governor Dewey, of course, and it was also, I think, a U.S. senator. I can't remember his name, but I know it was between those two. I think it's Stanton or something. But anyway, these two fought it out for like months at a time until Dewey got, the delegates he needed, and coincidentally enough, he got all those delegates at the Republican convention. Um, Now we go to the campaign trail. The campaign trail, I'm mainly going to focus for the campaign trail on Truman and Dewey. Um, Dewey on the campaign trail, even though he did go out, he did campaign, he did make stops. He stopped at several different places and stuff like that. The Republicans in 1948 were so sure that they were going to be handed the White House race that Governor Dewey of New York did not do basically anything. Sure, he made some speeches. Sure, he went to some events, but the Republicans thought that they had this election in the bag, and that they didn't even need to campaign because of the way the country was. They thought, and they thought, well, Truman is a horrible president anyway, so we're going to ride this out. They were mistaken, though. What Truman did is he did tons and tons of campaign stops over the next few months to campaign for president. He took time off and went a non-stop train across the country, stopping and talking about his views. And the most important thing was the Republican Congress. In 1946, after World War II, the Republicans got control of both the House and the Senate, but the Republican Congress, did not do that much anything. Truman called them the do-nothing Republican Congress. So on the campaign trail, on those whistle stops, Truman just kept hashing the do-nothing Republican Congress, and he also pushed through. He's like, well, I wanted to push through this, I wanted to push through that, but at every angle, these do-nothing Republicans have stopped me, back and forth. So, after months of campaigning, then we come to Election Day. Election Day had a very good turnout. Early leads did look towards Dewey, and that made the Republicans really big-headed and optimistic that they were going to win. In fact, at the Republican Party headquarters, when early leads began to show, Dewey winning several states, someone at the convention said this is definitely going to be a Republican year, and the Democratic Party, the donkey is dead, basically. Truman, on the other hand, after campaigning all day on Election Day and then voting in his home state of Missouri, he actually did not want to go to his campaign headquarters and watch the results. He was like, well, I'm just going to eat, go to bed, and whatever happens, happens. So he went to bed, and then the next morning, the results were that he won. Now, this goes to that famous picture that a lot of you have probably seen. The Chicago Tribune was pro-Republican at the time. I know, it's very odd, Chicago being pro-Republican. And they had on their newspaper for the next day, for that Wednesday, Dewey defeats Truman in a landslide. Well, that was not the case. Truman won, and when he was at a stop going back to Washington, someone gave him the morning paper in which he saw Dewey defeats Truman, and that's where you get that famous picture of him holding it up and smiling. So anyway, that's basically the bulk of the 1948 presidential campaign. I could go on more with describing other stuff, but I don't want to make this too long. As far as the other two candidates, the progressives, Henry Wallace, he carried a few states, but not that much. I think only carried like 2 or 4 states. And Strom Thurmond, he carried all of the South. Basically, the whole southern region was for him, but that didn't help him that much either. So that's basically the 1948 election in a nutshell.